Don't you find it ironic that the very first mitzvah, commandment, after Shabbat Parshat Yitro, after we receive the Ten Commandments, in the Parsha of this week of Eila Mishpatim, is all about slavery, about acquiring a Jewish slave. Even the states eventually understood that there has to be freedom. They abolished slavery. What is this all about? So to understand this, we need to discuss it a little further. But first, let's say thank you to God for giving us the opportunity to experience and appreciate full and ultimate freedom. And let's give some tzedakah and pray for the ultimate freedom. Mashiach. So as we ask the question, from Mount Sinai, such a high, lofty place, I'm not talking in a physical sense, but such a high, lofty moment, we descend to slavery. Mishpatim seems like it's a stepping down, dealing with slavery. And the Rebbe explains, not at all. What God did on Mount Sinai, something very revolutionary. That God came down on the mountain. He came down towards us. He entered human reality. To understand that Torah is not some kind of a lofty spiritual concept, but it must penetrate and deal with day-to-day and morally complicated parts of life. And what is there anything lower in terms of morality that when you have an individual who sold himself as a slave, either because of poverty, which sometimes not his fault, but also because of theft, and he couldn't pay back the theft. And that's why he sold into slavery. That's a pretty low moral level. Yet, says the Torah, God says, I'm coming there. I'm dealing with it. And my purpose is not to punish him, but just the opposite. To show them the way to freedom, to show them the purpose of life, to show them to understand and appreciate what the person has to strive for. Really? Slavery, avdus, being an avid servant, is not just a social status, it's a spiritual condition. Every Jew has a godly soul that is free, but sometimes, unfortunately, becomes enslaved to what? Habits, money, ego, fear, society's expectations. So the Torah starts from the beginning. Slavery is possible by everyone, but it's not a state to stay in it. God is realistic, so to say. Yes, these failings, these shortcomings, these weaknesses is a reality of the human condition. But God says, you have to be able to come out of it. Even the one who sold himself to slavery, remember, there's a maximum of time, only 6 years. Eventually you have to come out. While the person is a slave, the master has to deal with him with dignity. In fact, halacha is, you first have to feed your slave and then you eat yourself. To give the person a sense of dignity. Because it's not about control. It's about restoring that freedom. How do we reach freedom? Says the Mishnah. Who is a free person? The one who's preoccupied with study, with living a Torah life. And this is the result actually of Matan Torah, of receiving the Torah. Because Judaism doesn't measure holiness by how high one flies, but just to the opposite. How low are you willing to bring godliness into? The day after Mount Sinai, do we still feel that lofty, that spiritual bliss? And that's why the Torah starts with dealing with this concept of slavery. And really, that's the whole idea of the journey of life. We started out, first of all, with coming out of Egypt, gaining a notion of no more slaves. We were elevated on Mount Sinai to give an understanding of godliness, of spirituality. And the quest is what? To experience it fully, where the divine and the mundane fuse into one. And that's Mashiach. And may this be today.